Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story about what happens when your whole world gets turned upside down. Imagine being a king with all the power in the world, and then suddenly, you have nothing. You're just a face in the crowd, forced to see how the other half really lives. So let's jump right in. We find young King Edward totally lost, ripped away from his palace and thrown onto the mean streets. No one knows who he is, and no one cares. He's about to find out that without his crown, he's just another target. All right, so Edward's first big challenge comes pretty fast. He's with this guy, John Canty, who's got a nasty little plan. He and his buddy Hugo are gonna force the king to become a street performer, and not in a fun way. The scam is pretty simple and pretty cruel. Hugo just collapses on the ground, pretending he's in terrible pain. And Edward, well, his job is to play the worry little brother, begging anyone who passes by for some spare change. They're banking on people's kindness to make a quick buck.
But Edward, he's just not having it. This whole lying thing goes against everything he is. So when a genuinely nice man stops to help, Edward can't take it anymore. He just blurts out the truth, completely blowing up their whole scheme right then and there.
And just like that, the plan is toast. In this first round, you could say Edward's integrity wins. But it's a short-lived victory, because once Hugo is gone and the kind stranger walks away, the king is completely and utterly alone on a very dangerous road. Hugo, of course, is furious, and his embarrassment quickly turns into a thirst for revenge. He shows up again, this time in a crowded market, and his new plan is way, way more dangerous. He's not just trying to shame Edward now, he's trying to get him seriously hurt. And it happens so fast, it's brutal. Hugo spots his chance, grabs a hen from some poor woman's basket, shoves it right into Edward's hands, screams "thief" at the top of his lungs, and then just vanishes into the crowd. He leaves Edward holding the evidence, looking completely guilty. And that word grab is so important. This wasn't a gentle handoff. It was a violent, sudden move designed specifically to cause chaos and make sure all the blame lands squarely on Edward. Hugo's plan works perfectly. The second the woman sees her hen and hears the cry of thief, the entire market turns on Edward. To them, he's not a king. He's just some kid who stole from one of their own. And believe me, they are ready to serve up some street justice. Okay, so the mob is closing in. Things look really, really bad for Edward. When, suddenly, a voice cuts through all the noise. And it's a voice he knows. It's a lifeline right when he needs it most. Can you even imagine the relief? After everything he's been through, to hear the voice of his protector, Miles Hendon, it must have felt like an absolute miracle. This is a huge turning point in the story. Now, Miles doesn't pull out his sword and start a brawl. No, he's smarter than that. He just calmly walks up, pays the woman more than the hen was worth, and without one simple move, the whole situation is diffused. He proves Edward's innocence without throwing a single punch. It's brilliant. So, they're finally safe. The two of them head off to Miles's family home, Hendon Hall. They're probably thinking about a warm meal, a soft bed, a happy reunion. But they're about to walk into a whole new kind of betrayal. You have to remember, Miles has been away at war for years. He's finally home, ready to take his place as the head of the family. But, well, his brother has gotten pretty comfortable being the one in charge, and he's not about to give that up. And there it is. The ultimate betrayal. Miles's own brother looks him right in the eye and claims he's an impostor, says the real Miles Hendon is dead. He's willing to erase his own brother from existence just to hold on to the family estate. So what should have been a safe haven turns into another trap. Of course, they argue, it gets heated, and then it gets physical. But the servants, they're loyal to the guy who's been signing their paychecks. They side with the brother, and before they know it, Miles and Edward are overpowered and dragged off to jail. So they go from a brother's betrayal straight into a corrupt courtroom. Their nightmare is far from over. Now they have to deal with a so-called justice system that's anything but just. In front of the judge, Miles tells his story, explains how his brother stole everything from him. But it's no use. The judge doesn't care about the truth. He cares about power, and Miles's brother is the one with all the power now. So the judge sides with him. Case closed. The story calls the prison horrible, and you can bet it wasn't just dirty. Imagine the feeling, the total despair of being locked up, knowing you're innocent, but being in a system where the truth just doesn't matter. In one last, amazing act of loyalty, Miles actually begs the judge to spare Edward. He says, look, he's just a boy, he didn't do anything. And the judge agrees, but on one condition. Miles has to take the full punishment. And to protect the king, Miles willingly agrees to be put in the stocks. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the stocks were an absolutely awful form of public punishment. You're locked into this wooden frame right in the middle of town, totally helpless, while everyone gathers around to mock you and throw things at you. And that's exactly what happens. Miles is forced to endure this total humiliation with people pelting him with rotten food. And poor Edward can only stand there and watch, shouting, "Stop! He's a good man!" But his words are just swallowed up by the crowd. For the first time, the king's voice has no power at all. They're beaten up, they're exhausted, but they are not broken. They finally make their way to London, and here, in the heart of his own kingdom, Edward decides to play the one card he has left. He can't command an army, but he can write. He finds some paper and starts a letter. And that leaves us right here, with this massive question hanging in the air. After everything they've been through, the scams, the betrayal, the mob justice, is it possible that a few words on a piece of paper could actually fix all of this? Can a single letter really put a king back on his throne?